Hello class, I'm posting a few videos to talk about some of the things we talked about Thursday night that some of you might not have been able to hear because of the technical difficulties we were having. What I did is I talked about a sample report and we just analyzed where those scores came from to help us get an overall picture of what the Woodcock-Johnson test of cognitive and achievement actually does. So we talked about how on the test of cognitive there are 18 subtests, and I posted this under week 1, and you could see the name of each subtest. So as you're giving this test, you can actually see what does oral vocabulary mean, what is it trying to measure, and what are the scores, the results, what do they mean? We talked about the Woodcock-Johnson test of achievement, which has 20 subtests, and what does the results for each subtest mean and how are they laid out in a score report. This is Jane Smith. This is under the modules as well, week 1. So we talked about how the subtests, the names of the subtests, and then next where they are located on a report and how do you interpret the report. So let's start with the Woodcock-Johnson test of cognitive. So on Jane Smith, you'll see a list of every single subtest that you gave her. You'll see the list of the subtests down here, and then these subtests are combined to become a cluster. So each subtest means something, but also each subtest ends up becoming a cluster that you can also interpret. And we analyzed that, and we looked at which ones were in the average range, which ones were in the high average range, and which scores were in the low average range. And we used that using the bell curve. And you have a copy of the bell curve in the week 1 modules as well. I think what I'll end up doing is posting a video on the bell curve to help you with understanding which scores would be average. But long story short, we looked at Jane Smith's scores. We figured out which ones were average, low average, high average, but we also looked at what these subtests mean, and when they're combined, what do they mean? So I'll go ahead and post this video. Let me know if you have any questions, and then I'll post another one that talks about these clusters, because it's one thing to know what the subtests mean, but it's another thing to know what the clusters mean. Okay?